So, hi Greg, and welcome to our podcast, The Product Life. This is your host, Apurv Sibyl from Best Views Reviews. Best Views Reviews is basically a website that analyzes millions and millions of reviews and provides rankings and ratings for thousands of products. So, thank you so much, Greg, for coming on our podcast today.
It's
We would
great to be here.
Thank you. So, we would love if you could introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, my name is Greg Luce, and I'm the owner and founder of Sinister Cinema Video out here in Medford, Oregon, in the United States, and also Armchair Fiction, which is kind of an offshoot of Sinister Cinema. It's the book side of our business. Sinister Cinema is a mail order video company, and we specialize in old nostalgic mystery, science fiction, and horror films from mainly from the prior to about 1975 or so. A lot of the old classic stuff, and even some not so classic stuff. But we've been doing it now for 38 years, moving on 39. So we've been around for a long time.
Wow, that's really nice. So, how did you come up with this idea in the first place?
Back in the early days of like video cassette recorders, they came out in the late 70s, basically, and they were very expensive. And the cost of it, this is back when we were doing nothing but VHS. And so the cost of a VHS tape back then was anywhere from $20 to $25. So being an old movie fan, I got into a network of people around the country, and we would literally call each other up and say, "Hey, this movie is playing on this TV station at 2 o'clock in the morning. Do you want me to record it for you?" Some guy in New York or some guy in Florida. And we would trade stuff back and forth. And the cost of the hobby was very expensive. And so a guy from Monterey by the name of Kit Parker, and he owns Kit Parker Films, which was a 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter film rental library. He put me onto the idea of actually paying for the cost of my hobby by selling a few movies on the side that were in the public domain. And I didn't know anything about copyright law. And so we did some research, and we found out that a lot of this stuff from the silent era, the 20s, the 30s into the sound era, the 1940s and 50s, tons of films, well, not tons, but many, many films had fallen out of copyright here in the United States and even around the world. So what we did was we started accumulating film elements, 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter. And basically, that's how Sinister Cinema got started, is literally a mom and pop business out of my home. And we used to transfer our own films and everything. And now we outsource it. But we went from a few dozen titles in 1984 to a couple of thousand now in the year 2023. So it's been a long ride.
Well, sounds interesting. So, I was under the impression that Netflix also did a similar thing up until a couple of years back, and then they shifted to an online model. So, how has your business model evolved over the years?
Um, basically, we are consumer direct. We've been that way for many, many years. We have our website, www.sinistercinema.com, and people go there and they order movies from us. But we also we've expanded through Amazon over the years. Much of our product is available on Amazon.com. There's another company by the name of Allied Vaughn. They're basically a distribution company, and they make our product available on all kinds of various venues where people can reach out and acquire our product. And that's basically how we do it. Now, we're revamping our Facebook site, which is a work in progress right now, but that should be up and ready to go within a few days. But that's basically how we've done it over the years, word of mouth. And honestly, it's just been my experience that if you treat your customers really well, they will stick with you. And we have a loyal customer base. So that's essentially how we've done it. So
Good to know. So, and good
yeah.
luck with your Facebook launch. I hope it goes well.
Well, it's not it's not exactly a launch. It just so happens right at this period in time, we're simply revamping it. It's been around for a while, but we're revamping it. We're also going to be starting up our YouTube channel again in a matter of a few weeks, and we hope to be streaming things like that very soon.
Sounds interesting. So, my next question is, how has the growth been across over the years? Has it been a steady growth, and how did COVID affect your business?
Um, you know, it's interesting you asked that question. When COVID hit in 2020, I was very nervous about how it would affect our business. But it really didn't. And what I think I've discovered is that old time movie nuts, people who just love their old time movies, they'll forego paying their water bill or their electricity before they forego paying for their old movies. They love this stuff so much, and so we didn't do that badly. And we still continue to find new product, new films. We are reaching out now in kind of a different way. We're making a lot of older films available in anamorphic widescreen, which have never been available before in that format, even though they were composed for widescreen when they were first shot back in the 1950s or 1960s. And one of our big ones right now, and it's just in time for the holiday season, is we're the first company to offer Santa Claus Conquers the Martians in anamorphic widescreen, which is, it's a goofy, campy film made in 1964, and it's a lot of fun. And so we're doing those kinds of things. But back to your original question, COVID, fortunately, did not really affect us too much.
Got it. And what are your plans for the future for
Um,
2023?
For a number of years, I had really focused on the book side of our company called Armchair Fiction. We come out with a lot of nostalgic paperbacks, and these are distributed through KDP, which is Amazon's their instant print on demand basically program. And we were focusing on that for a lot of years, but in the last 2 or 3 years, we've really been re-emphasizing our video side. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to put as much product into anamorphic widescreen as we can, and we're looking for things that have never been available in that format. And of course, we're also just looking for things that have just never been generally available in the United States. We've got this wonderful French film. It's kind of a combination of a horror film, a fantasy film from 1945 called Spells. It's a wonderful movie. And also on the schlocky side, the old B movie side, we just came out with it's an AIP movie from 1959 called Attack of the Giant Leeches, which is an old drive-in style movie. It's never been available in widescreen, and so we've just brought that out, and we hope to do well with it. But that's basically how we do it. The continual search for things that have not really been out there that much. Our purpose, basically, Apurv, is to help older collectors reconnect with films that they haven't seen in years or have never seen at all. That's one part of it. But the other part of it is to try to create an interest with younger people who have never seen this stuff. And I think a lot of younger people under the age of, say, 35, there are a lot of quality films. Now, you don't have the CGI or all the great special effects, but you have in a lot of these older films a lot more character development and some wonderful scripts and just some wonderful acting. So it's kind of a twofold approach. And that's what we're trying to do these days.
Wow, sounds interesting. So these are all the questions that I had, Greg. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. It was great having you.
Hey, thank you so much. It was an honor, and I really appreciate it.